and start our programming, and give a huge thank you to Sareya, who's going to be leading us through this program. We're going to be discussing our her. She's going to be sharing with us her poems. Then she's going to discuss what it was for her, why did she write it, what message of hope she has from here, everything. From there, we're going to move to a discussion. I'm going to share a Jewish poem that really calls to my heart, and we're going to share about how literature really affects our faith going forth. So, without any more delay, Sareya, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate you. For those of you who are joining, thank you so much. Sareya, take it away. I'm just so ready to be inspired by your poetry.
Thank you so much. That was very. Hello, my name's Sareya. I'm White Man Apache and Navajo, and I'm just gonna go ahead and jump right in. This is my first poem. It's called My Go-To Icebreaker Answer. My name is Sareya, and I'm the one native person you know, or the first you've been forced to listen to. I'm the one who makes everyone uncomfortable with the words I speak. My name is Sareya, but according to Disney, the media, and Party City, my name is Pocahontas. My name is Elizabeth Warren's cousin. My name is a sexy Indian wench. I'm the one who refers to himself as a red skin. It makes you think of your racist grandparents or maybe your favorite football team. My name is Sareya, and when I speak my language, it makes you uncomfortable. But remember, my language is what saved your country of the free. My name is Sareya, and I make you uncomfortable in a world designed for your comfort. The way my voice quivers but raises when I talk about missing and murdered Indigenous women, or the fact that some mascots are just plain racist, it makes you feel something that you haven't felt before and you're terrified. Because you know there's something I know very well, but just can't seem to understand it. I speak of white privilege, and you hear me talking about your dishwashers, ruffled potato chips, and your yearly family trips to Hawaii. But of course, that can't be you, right? You think that's just normal life because all you've done is benefit from the exclusion of Black and Brown people. My name is Sareya. But according to the Declaration of Independence, my name is the merciless Indian savage. The way I talk about America makes it sound like I hate it. Like when I tell you about how I'm asked if I'm legal or illegal, if I live in teepees or an actual house, but you can't understand why. You can't help but feel sorry for me because you know there's something I know that you don't. And you want to know and understand why I am the way that I am. You want to help me and be my white savior. But when you see me look that inside and we talk about Donald Trump or the native stereotypes that control my life, you decide you don't want to know what I know, to ignore my truths, my dead cousin, raped ancestors, and friends. So when I speak, you speak over me, and when I'm proud, you put me down because you're scared. She Sri Hose, she Tudafle and Shli Low Clot Bushin, to talk clay schmat la clay Indonese Taylor Sands Hose, show a scene, show a son, Rita Clay, Danny Taylor Sr. Hose white painted woman of Fort Apache, my ancestors' wildest dreams, and I am terrified. And my name is Sareya. But because I'm a red skin, I'm forced to be strong and loud and make you so uncomfortable when all I want in this great big colonized world is to be comfortable, just like you. So that was my first poem. Like I said, it's called My Go-To Icebreaker Answer. Um, I mentioned that my name is Sareya a lot in it, mostly because no one ever knows how to say my name, which is totally fine because it's a really hard name. But um, when I wrote this poem, I was going to a writing retreat in Ohio, and it was in Columbus, Ohio. So you could already see like how that's slightly uncomfortable, and I was really nervous because this poetry retreat was supposed to be in the middle of the woods, and they kept telling us there's going to be no self service, there's going to be like you're basically getting unplugged for like 3 days. And I was really worried because I was just like, I'm going to the middle of the woods in Ohio with a bunch of white older people that I have never met before in my entire life. And that was really scary for me, mostly because I'm really a homebody. I stay with my parents and my siblings all the time. I don't really go anywhere. If I do go somewhere, it was mostly just with my youth council, which was just Native people. So I was pretty nervous. And plus, I was very brand new to poetry at this point. So I had zero idea whatsoever to expect. I never even really took a true writing class about poetry. So I was super nervous. And I got there and everybody was so nice. Like, um, I don't know, they were just really kind. And they were people that I don't know, they wouldn't seem like they would be super nice on the outside, I guess, which is kind of judging a book by its cover. But they were just so kind, and they like I don't know, they helped me trust people more, I guess, per se. That's how I would explain it. They understood that I'm not like them, basically, and my poetry tells a very different story from other people's poetry, and everything that I talk about in my poetry is stuff that's important to me. And a lot of the times when I had readings beforehand, if someone didn't understand or they just didn't relate, they would become angry with that and be angry with me for, exposing them to that sort of thing that's brand new. But these people, they like thanked me for it and they were like, "Thank you for letting us know about this. I didn't know this beforehand. I didn't know this was even a thing." And that really helped me because one, it helped me see humans differently. Because growing up where I've always grown up in areas that were mainly white and that didn't acknowledge Native peoples. Oftentimes it was just I would get bullied for being Native, or they'd be like, "You're Native, but natives don't exist anymore," kind of thing. And that was really frustrating for me. And when I was younger, I took it really badly and I decided I'm not going to be Native anymore. I resigned myself from being Native. I didn't really try and learn anything about it or anything like that. I just stayed out of it as much as I could. But being in that sort of environment and being basically like cheered on per se, it just completely changed that for me. I felt so accepted in that moment, and it really helped me in terms of my poetry and just as getting to know myself as a person. Um, they said I was really brand new to everything regarding poetry and like activism per se within the Native community. So it really helped me be more confident in everything that I was talking about and everything that I was trying to learn myself and to educate others within. And in the poem, I talk about things like how the world views natives, like with the whole Pocahontas thing, or the Elizabeth Warren thing, or the sexy Indian wench. Um, those are all names that I've been called before, and we had this whole talk about like different names that you've been called, and we had to like write it down on this piece of paper. And we wrote all these horrible names down, and they were like, "Okay, how can you find like strength within that? Like, what can you take away?" And I thought about it, and I'm the type of person that bad things happen, but I just kind of joke throughout it. I notice a lot of Native people are like that. We just take it as it comes. During the election, CNN, they had different um, demographic statistics. That's what it is. And there was like white and Caucasian, Latinx, and I don't know, just a bunch of different categories to place people within. And what they put that was for natives, I assume, was something else. And that is very horrible because that's like a erasure of native peoples, and it's just not cool. We're native people. You could just put that down. But they didn't do that. They put something else. And instead of just getting like super heartbroken or super butthurt about it, the native community just made a joke out of it. We all just joked about it and we laughed about it. We pretty much just got over it. And a lot of the times that's how a lot of us learn to cope with different things. We just laugh about it and get over it. And in different parts of my poem, it's very like I don't know what the word is. It's kind of like I'm throwing it back in their face, I guess. Not, I don't mean to be mean about it, but it's kind of like I'm throwing it back in their face because a lot of the time, the different things that I talk about in my poem, and even just using my introduction in Apache, that was Apache, by the way. I didn't even say that. I'm sorry. Um, those things aren't associated with really natives anymore. You would think it would be, considering it's our culture, but a lot of those things aren't. And I don't know. That's just one of my favorite poems to introduce myself with. I'm gonna read another poem. It doesn't even have a title, but it's it's good, and then it gets really sad. That's my warning for you. I don't know how else to explain it. I fell in love at the Navajo Travel Center on the outskirts of Gallup on my way to Albuquerque, wearing a maroon mask and a white Mount Apache shirt, 3 years worn checkered Vans. I was heartbroken in Tuba City at the Sonics, drinking a cherry limeade. I decided to live my life in New York. I drank coffee and wore what I wanted and bought so much art, and I cut my hair. I never stopped moving like the city. I decided to move to California to breathe with the ocean. I fell in love with the salt in my hair. I taught poetry to kids and I went vegan. Later, I moved to Paris. I bought way too many clothes. I drank so much coffee and I I fell in love every other day with the art that I saw. I moved to Rome, and when I began to age too much, I worked on weaving Navajo rugs and educating others about the lives that natives live. I went back to New York, helped in a museum, then decided I was ready to go home to my res. I got in the car and drove. My car broke down in a sundown town, and there my existence was taken from me. I'm not sure if my body was left there or if I ever made it home, but I do know that I lived up to the expectation of a 2 out of 3. So the last part, I mentioned the 2 out of 3. Um, 2 out of 3 Native women are expected to be sexually assaulted or abused, which is a pretty horrible statistic. But it's oftentimes like it's just kind of what is expected, which is really terrible to say. But that's just the kind of life that Native women live. Everything we do, we have to do it carefully. Like I can't just go, even though I live in Gilbert, I can't just go out for a walk in the middle of the night. That's not something I could ever do. And it's really dangerous. And in the beginning, um, I talk about getting heartbroken in Tuba City. And a lot of people always think that's like about a guy. That is not about a guy. It's just like a lot of the times as an urban native, you don't get really like truly accepted by res natives because you're not native enough. Basically, you're too white, you're too urban. So getting heartbroken in Tuba City, by that I mean like I wasn't accepted. Basically, like I just didn't feel like I belonged there. So that's why I go on to live my life in New York and California and all these different places, and to do so many different things like living a fun life basically because going to these places like New York or California or like Rome and Paris, those are like places that everybody wants to go. If you live in a small town or you have like the small town like ideas, a lot of times you think like, I want to go to New York. New York is a big, fast moving city and things like that. And when I was younger, I always wanted to go to New York, especially when I spent time with my grandparents a lot, because that's what I did. I would stay with them for like summers or whatever, and I would just be like, I can't wait to move to New York. I can't wait to do all these things. But at the end of the day, even trying to go back home, this person, her life was taken from her because she never really stopped being native. That the weight of the statistic that holds you down, it never went away. Like, I don't know, all these things could have happened anywhere else. Like becoming a 2 out of 3 could have happened anywhere else, but it happened as she was on her way back home. And I made the poem like that because a lot of the times I notice that different people, we try to run away from what our identity can do to us. I've seen it even in people that I know, and I did that too, obviously, with trying to like stop being native. I tried to run away from what being native is like, and it, you'd never get out of it. And it's a sad poem, but she still got to do these things. There's this idea that you, especially within our native youth, that you're not going to become anything, that you can't, there's nothing more for you, but you can do these things. Like she got out of these different places. And yeah, I'm gonna stop analyzing that poem now because I'm just getting myself lost. But this next poem, it's personally one of my favorites. I wrote it very recently though. Um, in the poem, I mention a man named Harris. So COVID-19 obviously hurt a lot of people, but it really hurt our indigenous peoples because if you look at the Navajo Nation, it is huge. It spans across like 4 different states, I think. And there's only like, I think there's 3 hospitals, but they're spanned out so far that if you want to go to one, you have to drive at least 2 hours depending where you are. For my Nolly woman, my grandma, she has to go 2 hours if she wants to go to the nearest Walmart and buy things. And she, luckily she has running water, but she didn't have it before. And there are all these people on the res that don't have running water and don't have these things that are necessities. And that obviously hurt our people a lot, and the government didn't really help too much either. So we lost a lot of people. And in White River we lost Harris, and he was one of our medicine men. He carried all of the songs, all of the language, he carried all of that. And for me personally, when I had my dance, I didn't know what was going on. I had really no idea, but he never treated me like I was dumb or that I don't know, he never treated me like how most res natives treat me. He always treated me with a lot of respect and a lot of kindness, and he just meant a lot to me. Yeah. I want to fall in love to an Aretha Franklin song. I want to finish making coffee and bring it to my partner, the crackles of the vinyl churning, the yellowish glow in the room. I want to commit crimes while listening to Rage Against the Machine, blood pumping, my vans hitting the pavement, running away from the Klan brothers after knocking down another Columbus statue. I want to drive around the world with my grandma, listening to George Jones moan over the loss of his love, hands out the window, her laughter filling the air. I want to see my brother in his own art gallery. Some of his paintings and paintings from others surrounding him, standing tall, his hair long. I want to let my friends know that I love them. I want to move the roadblocks in their paths, make the people who hurt them learn kindness. I want to buy my friends breakfast at Denny's and listen to them talk about anything or everything for hours on end. I want to see Harris again, sitting in a red folding chair, a Diet Coke in hand, and I want him to tell me I did a good job, that I didn't quit and I didn't let the world fall. I want to be at peace. No need for land defenders or marches for human rights. I want to know that my siblings and her siblings and his siblings and their siblings and him and her and they are safe. I want to apologize to all those who I've done wrong and those that I've confused. I was dumb and young, and I still am very dumb and very young, but now I have realized that my words mean something, and I'm sorry. I want to listen to London Symphony Orchestra Rachmaninoff Symphony Number 2, Movement 3, Adagio, and lay on the ground where I once had my sunrise dance. I want to rest in the old cornfields, sunflowers over me, dark thunderstorm clouds rolling by. I want to be listening to my grandpa singing and laughing. I want to be at peace. 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 Someone doesn't have a title, but basically it's just about obviously things that I want to happen, and a lot of them just have to do with just things being okay. um Lately, and basically always, it feels like everything's just happening, everything's just going on, nothing, or never at peace, there's always just something that's happening. And at the end I say I want to be at peace 4 times, because in Navajo when you end a prayer you say Hajona Hashli 4 times, and basically it means basically kind of just that in like an English sense of the word. You can't really explain some like Navajo words in English, but basically it means like I want peace. I want everything to just be, you know, like balanced out. I just want that. And um the part that I mentioned, laying on the ground where I once had my sunrise dance. When when you get your period, you have to have a puberty ceremony. That's how you say it. And for me, that's what inspired me to learn about being Native again. Like it really helped me want to make that connection again. And all these people that I mentioned in my poem, like my grandma, that's my grandma Lita Walker, um, my brother Brandon, and all these people, they're the ones that helped me get to that time in my life. They they give me the faith to believe that the world's gonna be okay again. Like, I don't know, because there's so much going on. Like right now, there's a whole pandemic going on right now. There's a revolution for human rights. There's all these different things, like not even just in the United States, in China, in Africa. There's so much going on all the time. But I don't know, there's a hope that everything's gonna be okay at some point. And yeah, I'm gonna read this next poem. It's called Bad Day Thoughts. This is my most favorite poem. I think it'll be kind of obvious why, but I really like reading this poem just because I like watching people's reactions. And yeah, Bad Day Thoughts. I don't like to wear dresses. They make me nervous, much more cautious than usual, more wary of hands belonging to people I don't know. I don't like drinking water anymore. With every sip, I'm reminded that there are so many others in this world who cannot drink water. It's too dirty, too expensive, or too far for travel, and here I am. With every sip, I'm given life that I waste away. I like to do my makeup, not because I care about European beauty standards or about what old men think of me, but because I can't say everything with words. I need the color. I drink a lot of coffee lately, not only because I like the taste, but because it helps me stay awake. Even with all the horrors in this world, I'd much rather hide here than my dream world because at least here I know why things happen to someone like me. I want to eat the rich, feel their greed between my teeth, see if the Botox is chewy or like gravel, but unfortunately, I'm booked with trying to save the earth from their corporations. I lust for life constantly, mainly only the sweet cream of it, but I know the bitterness helps. I don't like wearing dresses, drinking water, or sleeping, but I do enjoy a nice sweet cream infused bitter coffee with Botox on the side. That's one of my favorite poems, mostly just because I could talk about eating the rich and their Botox. When I first read that poem, I read it at the Heard Museum. I did one of their Indigenous open mic nights thing, and I read the poem. And after I finished it, I was like looking at the crowd, and this one lady, she was sitting there, and her face, she just looked very uncomfortable, and she just like touched her face, like right here, and she was just like poking at her face. I kind of feel like she might have had Botox, but I don't know. I thought that was super funny, and I was like, She came up after me. She told me she liked the poem, so I don't think it was too bad, but it was pretty funny to me. Um, I really like that poem because it's funny per se. Um, it's really hard for me to write funnier poems, especially because everything I write about is basically just like problems, and they're like sad problems. They're literally like human rights problems, and you can't really be funny about it per se. But I don't know, that's just one of my favorite poems because it seems really sad because you talk about different things like not being able to wear dresses because people are weird and they're weird about it, or not being able to just wear makeup because then everyone assumes that you just care like about how you look, or they just think weird things. And the coffee part isn't too bad, I think. But other than that, it's like a sad poem in a way, but it also turned kind of funny, and that's just one of my favorites. This next poem I'm gonna read, it's about police brutality, and I don't know how to. Native people have the highest like police brutality like rate, and tribal police, they're so okay, this is how I explain this. So my grandma, she woke up one morning and there was a lady beating on her car. Okay, she had like a piece of wood and she was like hitting her car. So obviously she called tribal police and she was like, "There's someone hitting my car outside right now." And they told her, "Well, I'm sorry, we're busy right now. Call in an hour." And they just left her hanging. And she was like, "Okay." And she went outside and she was like, "Hey, leave," because the police aren't coming. So she was like, "Hey, you need to leave," and or else I'm gonna call the police. And the girl was like, "Okay, go ahead, call the police. I don't care." And she went towards my grandma with the wood, but my grandma just got inside. She closed the door, and she called the police again. And she said, now she tried to attack me, and she was banging on her window. She's like, she's banging on my window with the wood. And they told her again, "I'm sorry, you have to wait an hour. I hope she leaves." And they just kind of left it at that. But when there's things like drunk and disorderly calls or just things like that, the police is there like in a second arresting them and taking them away instead of like trying to provide any services for those people, like, "Hey, do you need somewhere to stay for the night?" And I don't know. But yeah, this poem is about police brutality, and yeah. For my brothers: dear lovely young brown boys, with your long thick hair flowing in the wind and your dirty faces, I beg of you, don't walk in the dark alone. When the policeman speaks to you, don't talk back. Don't move, don't mumble, and raise your hands higher than your dreams, my lovely boys. There are so many injustices in this world, and I don't want to lose you to this one too. I know you're just walking home to help your grandma. Nothing in your pockets but our ancestors' prayers, but the men in blue will kill you and continue on with their lives like they didn't just ruin mine. So please just listen. My young child of Creator and my ancestors' wildest dreams, don't resist. And as for you, Mr. Policeman, you might believe that dark skin is a weapon, but in fact it is a gift, so please stand down. You might believe that my lovely boys are dangerous, but the only danger here is that you will not accept them. So originally, this wasn't supposed to be a poem. It was like it was a poem that I wrote, or a letter that I wrote for my brothers. I have three brothers, technically four, but I have three brothers with me right now. I have Austin, Brandon, and Colton. Austin is 13. Oh my god, that's crazy. My brother Brandon is 11 and Colton is 6, and they all have really long brown hair and it's all pretty thick, and um we don't let them walk anywhere alone, and we definitely don't let them walk anywhere with like hoodies and stuff like that on, and we've already had like the talk with them so many times, and we had to have the talk with them that day because they were going on a field trip somewhere, and I don't know, we just had to talk about it again. And that idea that we had to have that talk with them was just really bothering me. Like, why do I have to tell my brothers who are so young, to worry about these things? Because I'm pretty sure, like, our neighbors next door that have, are all white children, and they don't have to have this conversation with their kids, I'm pretty sure. And I don't know, it was just really hard for me to deal with the fact that we have to have these conversations. And my brother, or my cousin brother, Jaywan, he plays sports here in town. So like they'll go to the res and they'll come back here just to play sports. And that's what we had to talk about, because sometimes his dad will just drop him off at the game, and because the tournaments usually last like all day, but my uncle, he's a hot shot, so he works like in fires and stuff like that. So every now and then he just has to drop him off, and he has to wait until we, like my family, gets there to go take care of him. So that's a conversation they have all the time. Like, you need to be careful. You can't just be talking. You can't just do anything you really want. And I don't know, it's just something that bugged me for a really long time, is that we have to have these conversations. And whenever we have to have these conversations, I always feel angry, like with the world or whatever. Like, why do I have to talk to my brothers this way? Why does it have to be like this? And I don't know. One time I was telling grandma about it, and I was like, I hate doing this. I don't want to have this conversation with them. It makes me so sad. And my grandma was like, and don't. And I was like, what are you talking about? Obviously, I need to have this conversation with them. And she was like, what did she say? She was like, my mom, my mom's mom, my mom's mom. We've all been praying for all of you since the beginning of time. Like, people that are people before us that were never even here, they were praying for you, that you would be safe, and that, you know, Creator would take care of you. You don't need to worry about these things if you don't want to, because your ancestors have already worried about them. They've already prayed about these things happening. And that just kind of blew my mind, because I never really thought of that. I'm not the most like religious person ever. I struggle with my religious identity a lot. And but when she told me that, I was just like, yeah, like that's something I accepted so quickly, just because it makes so much sense to me that, these people will be praying for me all the time. And yeah, I'm gonna read my next poem. It's called "C." This is for my cousin brother Cody. Um, it is about suicide. I mentioned this part, the 71%. Native men have a 71% higher chance, I don't know what exactly the words are, than all other types of men to commit suicide. And yeah, see. Today my brother is gone. He left this morning to the place inside the feather. He won't return, I know, but that doesn't stop me from leaving the light on for him. Because this can't happen. The state of complete disbelief and shock I'm in should not be happening, because this was never supposed to happen. I should be bringing the key inside, however, I'm leaving it under the mat for him, because this was never supposed to happen. My brother has to be coming home soon. It can't be any other way, because he is not a part of the 71%. I reject that notion by staying up waiting for him in the living room. My brother went home to rest today, and I realized I need to bring in the key and turn off the light outside. It is time to let my brother rest far away in peace. The TV is turned off because my brother went home to rest today, and I have to learn to accept that. Every bone in my body wants me to go drive around and look for my brother, but I can't, because my brain is in physiological shock that my brother is a part of 71%. Meaning that this issue I had only read about and learned through secondary sources has now become something close to me. My brother is resting now, and I leave the light on just in case. But I know that my brother is resting, and I can bring the key inside, but I'll always just leave the light on in case. I wrote that last November. I Cody passed away during that time. And I remember I was on my way to the orthodontist because I do Invisalign, and I was just totally hanging out, and my mom told me, and I don't know why, but it just completely like blew my mind. I didn't believe her at all. I had no belief. I was like, whatever, yeah, okay. And and then we had to like go to Navajo Nation and stuff and go help and do those things. And the whole time we were there, like everybody's obviously crying, everyone's very sad. I saw all these pictures of him, and it just completely blew my mind because I'm a part of all these like Native organizations and stuff, and we always talked about suicide, and we always talked about how it's so common for Native people. And I knew that it was something that could happen, but I never thought it would happen, basically. And after that happened, I started learning about more things that happened like in my family, about different people, and I was so upset. I couldn't believe it, and I was so angry, but I just had to keep reminding myself that wherever he is happier now. Like he's not in pain anymore. Obviously, something was bothering him so much that he had to do that. And I don't know, it was just so it was so heartbreaking to me, um but like yeah, but I know that he's okay now. And you know, I always loved him and I always will, and I'm pretty sure he knows that. So yeah. This next poem is called Questions for You. It's basically just a bunch of questions. During this time of just like being inside, a lot of the times, I don't know, you're just told to like just get through it. Just get through it. Another day, another dollar kind of thing. And I remember my friend was asking me all these questions about like, how are you? How's this going? And I was so annoyed because one, I'm not a very good responder sometimes. So I was like, I'm good. And she was like, but are you really good? There's all this stuff going on and there's so many things. And yeah, it's kind of based off of that small conversation. Questions for you. How are you? How is your heart? Still beating slowly, or has it changed its pace? How is your mind? Still hungry for the information of this world? Do you still starve it? Has your mind learned how to love you yet, or is that still a work in progress? How have you been sleeping lately? Soundly, or does the sleep paralysis still play with you? How is your meaning? Have you found it yet? Have you allowed it to define you, or are you still hiding? What is it like when the rain hits your face? Does it slap you? Does it kiss you? Does it still help you breathe? Do you still allow yourself to hurt? Is it still easy for you to get out of bed, or is it hard? Could you feel my prayers for you when the rain hit your skin? How are you? Um, a lot of the time, for me, rain's something very special, mostly because a lot of the times within Native culture, when we talk about water and things like that, it feels like it's like a rebirth, I guess. Like we're cleansing the earth, we're cleaning it. And I remember when I wrote this poem, it was raining, and there was so much thunder going on. And it was like it felt really loud, and I just felt like it was talking to me in a sense, and I was trying to figure out like how, like what it was saying, basically. And yeah, um, I think this is my last one, but this is like seriously one of my most favorite poems because it basically has everybody that I love in it. Like there's my grandma, there's my grandpa, and yeah, it's pretty long too, so be ready for that. I'm thinking about strawberries. I'm thinking about strawberries and the man who picked them for me. I wonder if he has a granddaughter. I wonder if his granddaughter thinks like I do. I'm thinking about when I was at home, eating spaghetti and commodity cheese, when my grandpa walked in, covered in dirt, lunchbox in hand, me hugging him, so happy to see him home, wondering why he has to work, why he can't just stay home with me. I wonder if she wonders the same about her grandpa. I'm sitting here eating raspberries, thinking about the sunflowers. I wonder if they keep a conversation with the sun all day. I wonder if they ever say thank you for the nutrients. I'm thinking about my siblings. I wonder how the bat feels when Jawan swings. When Austin recites dinosaurs out loud, I wonder if the air swirls around him. I'm thinking about how Shania laughs so loudly at nothing. I wonder what Colton thinks about when he sees clouds. I wonder if the clouds wave to him like they used to wave to me. I'm thinking about Brandon and how he finds so much beauty in the world to paint it. I'm thinking about how the grass holds Julian when he falls. I'm thinking about Alyssa saying hello to the ocean. I'm thinking about COVID. I wonder how the air feels passing along such a virus. If it feels ashamed or glad, tired of the humans who continue to pollute it. I think I should have a sit down with the air and beg it to stop harming my people. Tell about how I've already lost so many and I can't lose anymore. I'm thinking about my grandma, our little walker, holding my hands when we walk. I wonder what my energy was when it passed to her. I wonder if she felt so loved and appreciated in that moment like I have always felt with her. I'm thinking about how we laughed together around the world yet so far apart. Talking about Sherwin's poems, my need to try my best, and how she misses eating breakfast together. I'm outside listening to thunder, each crack and boom. I wonder if the crack and boom are having a conversation. I wonder if they know I'm listening in. Maybe they're talking about me, calling me a snoop and sending me rain so I'll leave them alone. I can feel the wind. I wonder if the wind and the clouds are in love. If so, I'm happy for them. I'm thinking about the time my grandma Rita and I went to Sholo together. We ate at Wendy's and joked with one another. I wonder if the earth could feel my love for my grandma. Wondering if the air danced around us quietly, not wanting to interrupt. I'm thinking about the hummingbirds tattooed on my auntie's leg. I wonder what real hummingbirds think when they see it. I wonder if they giggle, embarrassed or smug. I'm thinking about how they come by to see my auntie and they tell all their friends about the tattoo. I'm thinking about how the hummingbirds sit by my auntie's window to listen to her sewing machine hum. I'm curious about the earth, the dirt, and how it connects to me. I wonder if the sun likes kissing our skin every day. I wonder if the rain misses me when it isn't around. I'm thinking about my Uncle Jay. I wonder if he thinks about the earth too when he's out fighting fires. If he feels bad for the plants that have passed on, nodding at them as he walks by. I'm thinking about the time we hugged at my sunrise dance. I felt scared and small, and somehow my uncle transferred strength to me. I'm thinking about energy. The energy of my love and curiosity, my sadness, my breathing, the anger and the rain. Sometimes when I sit outside, I can hear my heart beating, and I can't help but wonder about the kiwis. Yeah, thank you. That's one of my favorite poems. I really like when I wrote that poem, I was in the Emerging Diné Writers Institute. It was virtual, of course. But there were all these like Navajo poets like Jake Skeets, Amber McCrary, and all these amazing people. And one of my most favorite poets is Sherwin Bitsui. And they all have these different poems that talk about the earth. And they always like they make the earth and everything like within nature more lifelike. Like I don't know how to really explain that, but everything has emotions and feelings and everything you transfer everything. Like we had this whole talk about how you never really make your own dinner. You obviously you went to the store and you bought everything, but you're not the one that planted that. You you just bought it basically. Like you bought it and you put it together, sure, but all these people like helped you make that meal. It wasn't just you. There was the people that made the plate for you. There's the people that made the fork. There's the people that help take care of the vegetables. There's the sun, there's the rain, there's the water. All these things went into it. And I spent a lot of time thinking about the different connections that I had with earth, like just even this phone. There's somebody that made this phone for me. That person was fed, and just so much. And a lot of the times for me, I get my strength in people like my siblings and my grandma and my Uncle Jay and just like the rain, these things. And I really like the poem. My favorite part is about the tattoo though, the hummingbirds, because within my cultures, hummingbirds mean if you see one, it means that you have good news coming to you and there's something good that's about to happen. And there's always some hummingbirds around my grandma's house, probably because there's a feeder. But I remember one time, my aunt, she was wearing basketball shorts, so you could see her tattoo, and all these like hummingbirds were like flying around. And she was just like standing. She was talking to my grandma into the at like the carport or whatever, and they all just kind of like sat there, and they were just like it looked like they were looking at her. And I was like, I bet they're looking at her tattoo. And but yeah, thank you for letting me read for so long. That was probably the longest I've ever done reading and trying to explain my poetry, so I really appreciate that. But yeah, that was my last poem. Yeah,
Thank
I'm
you.
excited to.
Thank you. Thank you. So now we're moving to our dialogue portion of this segment. We really wanted to start off highlight the powerfulness of Sareya's poems, who just elevate our world. And this is really important because we tied in when we were talking about this event, how Jewish poetry also uplifts faith and hope. And it's used in a time to really uplift that when folks feel defeated, where folks feel in pain. So I would invite dialogue right now. I'm gonna either ask you to unmute yourself, and in the first dialogue question is for my Jewish brethren and in my Jewish community is, what similarities do you see in your own poetry, in your own Jewish poetry, to the similarity in Sareya's writing and her poetry? How does the feelings make you feel, etc.? So I'm gonna go ahead and open that up. Go ahead and unmute yourself if you wish. Um, if you do not wish to speak, you can go ahead and type it. Um, if there's awkward silence for too long, I am not scared of calling on people, so be prepared for that as well. So go ahead. Again, share your own in your own spirituality. How has poetry helped you with your faith?
Hi, I'm Lori Green, and a rabbi, and rarely write poetry on occasion, but read a fair amount of it. Some of it's prayer poetry, some of it's other kinds. And I think what really struck me about what you said is, you're commenting that certain words just can't be translated into English. And it's the same way. Certain words just can't be translated into English. And when I'm teaching, I find, teaching Hebrew poetry, I find myself really struggling with how to explain that. So that's something that really struck me about similarities and just the importance of maintaining our languages and cultures.
Thank you for that, Rabbi Laurie. Go ahead, Jonathan.
Jonathan Wolf in Chicago. Jonathan Wolf. I was on the editorial board of Shema magazine, which unfortunately lasted since my father and colleagues of his created it 50 years ago, and just 2-3 years ago closed up shop. And we used to have an annual issue of Jewish poetry, and 20 or 30 times more poems, many of them excellent, were submitted every year than we had room to print. So there's a tremendous amount of Jewish poetic imagination and language and creation going on, which we aren't even aware of because it has no outlet to be published. I guess that was before the internet in the 80s, so now it could be posted at least. But there's a tremendous amount of Jewish poetry in history and currently and published and circulated, and a tremendous amount more that we don't even know about. And we need to.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing. If nobody else wants to, I'm gonna to talk right now. I'm gonna read Ilana Weisel's comment on here. That is very good. She said, traditionally, Jewish literature is full of poems that celebrate the elements of the world as Sareya did. And I love that. And that's so true. That's so true. The passion. And she also, Ilana also says, not just celebrate, but animate the elements, the sun, the moon, the stars, the trees, the mountains, etc. I encourage other folks to unmute and share with us. This is a great time to really get to know and bridge both of our communities beautifully.
Eddie, can I ask a question or two?
Yes, please.
Yeah, there's so many things I want to reflect on. Thank you for the beautiful poetry. But just the two questions I'm thinking about among so many others, because these themes around gender and race and relationship to American culture. And so one of them is sort of, how do you think about your relationship between your universalism and your particularism, which is to say, being native and also being kind of in allyship with other minority groups? And to what extent are you sort of experience your native identity as one that's immersed in American culture, or because of history sort of beyond it or outside of it or in tension with it? And so that's sort of one thing I'm thinking about. And you don't need to answer, that's just if you want to. And the second one is, in Arizona, we just had a national election and obviously an election in Arizona, and the Native community showed up in huge numbers, in huge numbers. And I wonder what excites, is there a hope that actually marginalization will change in the community and thus people show up to vote? Or is there sort of a hopelessness that like whoever wins these things, we're still on the outside and still heavily marginalized? So I'm wondering how that energy emerges within what I often hear as kind of a dominant sense of exploitation, white exploitation of Native communities.
Well, in terms for the voting, I actually worked for Northeast Native Democrats for a while. And what we did was we tried to, obviously get people out to vote and get registered to vote and do all these things. And I think considering everything that's been happening in the 4 years and president is and things he says and things he does, people were more than willing to get registered to vote. I think they recognize there's a change, and especially after people like Deb Haaland got into office, it really helped people realize that we can do these things too. Voting is still very brand new. Like even my mom, she's like in her 40s, maybe, I have no idea. I think she's younger, but I don't know. But she told me like voting was still something very brand new for her as a child. Like it was like extremely brand new. And my grandpa finally got registered to vote this election, and he voted, thank goodness. But that was a lot of the stories that I heard from a lot of the older people that I talked to. Like they never felt like they belonged in voting. They didn't feel like they were good enough, or they just didn't understand it really. And they didn't get like that their votes mattered too, especially because all of our tribes are sovereign. So sometimes we don't realize that everything that happens within the like national US government affects us directly, because there's no really state tribe relationship there. And I noticed a lot of our youth were just like, we're voting, like we may not like the person that we have to have, because not everybody is a huge fan of Joe Biden, but they were like, we're voting no matter what. We're voting for him because we can't stand Trump. He allowed things like the Dakota Access Pipeline to happen. He did do something for MMIW, but that was more so like he had to do it. And in a way, it wasn't as helpful as it could have been. Things were taken out of that bill, or that, I can't remember exactly what it's called right now, but things were taken out of it that didn't really necessarily help exactly. And he really just didn't do much for Indigenous peoples in general, especially in regards to COVID. And I think that's what really made people realize we need to vote, because we had all these people passing away, we had all these people sick, and we didn't really get any help from the US government. And with that, there was a lot of anger, I feel like, during that time. And these people, like, they started pushing for change, and we're going to vote him out. And I think during that process of it coming closer and closer and getting more educated about everything that could change potentially, people are more like, okay, we're going to make this into how we want it. And with someone like Joe Biden, who actually, wants a Native person in his cabinet, and he actually has this whole plan for Native peoples, including like urban Natives and all these things, I think there is like this hope that things will really change, and that will be more seen within America in general. And hopefully we do. But in regards to your other question, for me personally, I feel like Natives are more on the outside of things. I think we can try and immerse ourselves as much as we want to into American culture and stuff like that, but it's never really truly going to fit us, because when you think about it, American culture it's a buildup of everybody else's culture into one, essentially. And you can't take that, because some of the things within that culture aren't yours. They're not yours to have, I guess. And they're the experiences of other people that you may not be able to connect with. And especially in the way that American culture is looked at right now. When you think about American culture, a lot of the times you think of things like guns, hot dogs, and burgers. More like 4th of July. For me, that's how I view American culture. It reminds me of like the 4th of July, like all that stuff going on. Whereas for another person, American culture is something completely different. It's not really like set in stone what it is, especially because, like I said earlier, it's made up of so many people. And I don't know if you can really truly interject yourself into that. I feel like you can get used to it, that's for sure, but you can't really ever be a part of it. And I think that as time goes on, Native peoples won't be so opposite of it, I guess. We'll find a way to have the proper parts of our culture immersed within American culture, because the way that Natives are looked at right now is severely misrepresented, or mostly just seen as like headdresses, I don't know, drinking, alcoholism, things like that. We're not seen for like really our culture or our resilience, those things that hold us. And yeah, I don't know if I answered your question at all. I feel like I just started talking and just kind of went with it. But yeah, thank you for asking. I really appreciated that. That was a really good asked question. I was like, whoa.
Thank you. Thank you. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Can I ask something? First of all, I just want to say I'm completely overwhelmed with your poetry, and in a positive way. I want to read it again, and I love it truly. And one thing that I just want to say and ask two things. One is it's very like of the earth, and even the way you speak about people, or your memories, it's really like of the earth and of our experiences here, which I just find really compelling. And when you spoke, I don't remember if it was in a poem or in some of your comments about your ancestors and how they're praying for you. I can't remember your exact words, so forgive me if I made a mistake. But your relationship with your ancestors and how they're looking out for you. I feel there is a kinship with, with my feelings as a Jewish person, because for me, memory, and for us, I think memory and the are people who we loved who died are always with us. We keep the memory. My son died recently of suicide, which is, I made a comment about that, of your telling of that. I thought was truth, the way you spoke of it, and he's very much here for me, and I feel and honoring his memory, and all the people who died. Also, I feel like there's a kinship with that, and the way you're honoring your ancestors. Can you speak to that if that resonates for you in any way?
Yeah, thank you. And I'm really sorry about your loss. That's something really hard to go through.
Thank you.
I agree with you. I think a lot of the times we may not realize it, but our family and those that we hold, very dear to our heart, we want the best for them. For me, like I said, I'm not like overly religious, but I do pray. And a lot of the times I pray for people that I have currently. Like I have my mom, I have my grandparents, I have my friends, I have these people, but I pray also for, their people who they're going to have in the future. I like to try and pray for their kids or for their grandkids, because I know that, yeah, they're not here right now, but they're going to be here one day. And no matter what, I want them to be protected by something. And they may not ever know me, they may not ever know that I prayed for them, but I want them to have something there, because I think as humans, we have to care for each other a lot. And sometimes, how we care for one another isn't always correct, I guess. Like we can be too overbearing, or we can be not overbearing enough. And I feel like prayer, I guess, is one of the ways that we can be there for one another, and be there for one another in the long term kind of sense. When I think about my ancestors, it's so easy and it's so hard for me to think about them. It's so easy because, in the sense, like all these Native organizations always say that, like, oh, your ancestors are watching over you. You're your ancestors' wildest dreams. And it's so easy, but at the same time, it's so hard because I don't know them. I've never met them personally. Like, how do I know that I'm what they wanted? Like, how do I know I'm doing the right kind of thing? And it's so hard, but at the end of the day, you just have to trust that, I guess. You trust that, they love and they care for you and that they did pray for you. And, for me personally, I know they prayed for me. I know because there are so many things that have happened that I could have easily just given up at some point. But I know that they prayed for me because I'm still here. I'm still kicking. And I have all these great people by my side. And I get to do cool things like this and talk to all of you and hear your thoughts and things like that. So I know my ancestors there for me in that kind of sense. And yeah.
Thank
It's just
you.
so beautiful, and thank you. And also, I just want to comment that also the way you brought it to the future generations in a prayerful way, like a religious way. It's, we think about the future generations as like hoping to make the world better for them, but the way you relate it to like in a religious, like in a prayerful context, is a really new way of thinking about it for me. So I want to thank you for that also.
Thank you.
Appreciate both of you. Thank you so much. So, this discussion can go on for hours and hours and hours, but I do want to respect everybody's time. Don't worry, our Jewish native dialogues are not going anywhere. We will be having plenty more to continue because we believe that as we are consistent with Shabbat, we are consistent with our allyship and our bridge building, and that will never stop. I want to finish off with the poem that really resonated with my heart. This is from Rabbi Sheldon Martyr. This poem is called For the Community in Time of Crisis. It says, may there be healing and blessing for us and all the people throughout the world who live now under the shadows of an illness, anxiety, and isolation. May people hope turn out fear to faith and show us the way of peace of mind, wholeness within and strength from community. May those who care for the sick with their hands, their voices, and their hearts be blessed with courage and stamina. May those who pursue healing through medical skill, knowledge, be blessed with insight, patience, and compassion. Let us, the caregivers and the hope givers, shine the soft light of human kindness in dark places. May all of us, the sick and the well, together know and feel the blessing of ancient times. Be strong and of good courage. Thank you, everybody, for being on this call. Huge shout out to our amazing friend Sareya, who is just a powerful student, activist, poet, leader, etc., etc. I can go on and on and on, who we have had the honor to register voters and talk about our civic engagement together with our Native communities. It seems like it was yesterday in February, Sareya, that we were registering our Native community to vote. So I appreciate all of you. I want to give another acknowledgement to our great friend, Rosetta Walker, a great elder friend who's here as well. Native elder who we just adore and love. Everybody have a blessed day. If I cannot see you personally, Shabbat Shalom for our Jewish community. In community with all of you, stay safe, wear a mask, help keep our community safe. Thank you, everybody. Take care. Bye.